Anybody first timers? Cool. All right. Well, whether you're a long-time parent or a first-time parent, there are so many great sports and activities here at Washington Roll that you can be a part of. And we feel very blessed that you guys chose to be a part of us here tonight. I understand that some of you have a band concert. Unfortunately, there's no way to schedule around it because there are banquets scheduled for every other night this week. So if you have to take off for a band concert, feel free to go ahead and do that. But hopefully we can keep everybody here. Now, before we start eating tonight, first of all, here we go. All right. Before we start eating tonight, I want to give you some conversation starters. This was a fantastic year, and I'd like to start off the evening with a brief 60-second recap of what your wrestlers have done over the past 4 months. This year, your wrestlers were the JV champions at Emporia, Seaman, Burlington, Shawnee Heights, and the Sabetha Varsity Duels Tournament. This year, they were the Leavenworth runners-up, and that's the one where we took top in every single match. Bet you forgot about that, guys. We were the champions of the Cougar Invitational, champions of Shawnee Mission South. We were 4th at the Newton Tournament of Champions. We were 3rd at Beloit, 3rd in the Latham North, 3rd in the Centennial League. We had 2nd place at regionals with 10 state qualifiers. We had 5 wrestlers chosen as area athletes of the week throughout the course of the season by various media outlets. We had 7 state medalists, 3 state champions. We were the 6A runners-up. We scored more points than any team in Washington Rural history by a long shot. We finished with a 15-4 dual record, and that includes our JV teams against other people's varsity. And that is a school record for dual wins. We had 18 wrestlers that earned all-city accolades, 4 on the first team. And additionally, we had this year 17 wrestlers out of 52 from grades 9 through 12 that finished this year with a term GPA of 4.0 or higher. You parents have a lot to be proud of. This is a fine group of young men. Now, with tonight's banquet, I can promise you good food, good fellowship, and I can also promise that when you leave here tonight, you're all going to know each other just a little bit better. But before we get to introductions and to awards, I would like to welcome Junior Will Madeline up to the microphone to do tonight's invocation. Come on, Will.
If you would all bow your heads in prayer with me. Thank you, God, for bringing this family together for this meeting, for the bonds we've made and the time we've shared. We rejoice in our accomplishments as a team and individually. May they strengthen us to wrestle even greater challenges in the world around us. Bless this meal and our time together. And bless the hands that have prepared it. May it empower us to go and serve our neighbors. Amen.
Okay, and now to the part I know a lot of you guys are waiting for, we're going to eat. Wrestlers, what I learned last year is I needed to add this slide. I know you're not cutting weight anymore, but remember there are people coming through behind you. So we're going to do this in the order that we generally do. We hold a whole lot of weight with the Topeka Blue Thunder Wrestling Club, and we try to honor commitment rather than achievement around here. So the people that are committed and have already signed up with Topeka Blue Thunder, those kids can go and eat with seniors and their families. So if you wrestled at the sub-district tournament as a 14 and under, or you are already signed up to wrestle with Topeka Blue Thunder, go ahead and line up with seniors right now. So seniors, coaches. All right, everybody, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. I know we still got plenty of food up there, so feel free to head back and forth as we talk tonight. This is the part of the banquet that I fear the most, because inevitably I always leave someone out and I lay in bed the night of the banquet and think, dang it. So if you are that person, I sincerely apologize. But I did need to say some thank yous to the following people. First and foremost, kids, thank your parents. When you get in the car tonight, make sure that if you haven't done it already, you thank them for driving you to all of those early morning weigh-ins, to picking you up for practice, to come and supporting you on the road. You may remember at the preseason meeting, I shared this slide. And if you watched any of our kids compete this year, you know that this is a team of 52 tough, resilient, coachable, and respectful kids. And that is absolutely a direct reflection of your parenting. I appreciate your support of our program and the foundation that you've laid for us for many years to come. I would also like to thank Carol Holthouse and Doug Walker. I don't think Doug's here anymore, but Carol is. Where's Carol? Carol waving in the back. Probably out of the 1,200 pictures that are hanging up in here, she took 900 of them. So thank you very much, Carol. I certainly appreciate you letting me poach your Facebook page. Yes. And to the other man with the camera, Tom Sparling over here in the corner, not just for videotaping tonight, but for all the cool vinyl stuff that we have, all those bumper stickers and cups and license plates and all the cool stuff we have, the yard signs. Tom is the one that's responsible for that, and we genuinely appreciate it. Thank you, Tom. Now, I know that these tables aren't ideal for this, but don't be shy because I am going to make you stand. Because I want people to get the visual for how many people it took to do this. If you were one of the parents that helped set up this awesome banquet tonight, please stand up so we can recognize you. I know we got a lot of mamas out there. Stand up. This is a really cool deal, and it doesn't happen without those people that just stood. And to Peggy Jenkins, where's Peggy? Peggy right there in the middle. Peggy coordinated our team meals this year. And again, so we can have a visual, moms and dads and anybody that helped Peggy with those breakfasts by contributing in any way, going grocery shopping, making burritos, bringing stuff in on Saturday mornings. Could those people please stand up so our younger parents can see how many people it takes to do that? If you helped with the breakfast, stand up. And again, I think that's something that is uniquely rural. And I think it's a really cool thing. So Peggy, thank you for setting all that up. I really appreciate it. Daniel and Jess Reeling, they're not here tonight, but if you do run into them, please tell them thank you for all the wonderful things that they do for us. Greg Murray, where are you at? Greg's part of the traveling circus. He comes with us every single week. He was responsible for getting us a Yeti cooler that we could use at state and lock up and not have to worry about our food getting stolen by other teams. He follows us everywhere that we go and buys his team breakfast when we're on the road. Greg, thank you. I appreciate your support. And I think I saw her. Is Penny Lane here tonight? There she is, yeah. Penny Lane in the back, our athletic director. She's enormously supportive of our program. If we need something, 99 out of 100 times we get it. Because she knows what a great job your kids are doing, and so she does everything she can in her power to support us, whether that's having our back when we need something, getting us hooked up with hotels, all that kind of stuff. Penny, thank you for support. I appreciate it. And next, to all of you, to our entire wrestling family that helped us raise over $12,000 this year for our high school wrestling team. There are a lot of hidden costs that are associated with running a high-level program. And because of the fundraiser that you guys did, we were able to do a lot of those things for our kids. There's still more to come this year. Not only that, for the third year in a row, we were able to donate $2,500 from our program to the kids in this school that need it. And that money stayed within the walls of this school and helped out kids that attend Washburn Rural. When we do the same fundraiser again next year, we will reach the $10,000 in donations mark to that local charity. And I think that's a pretty special thing that your boys and your families have done. So thank you again for all of your help with that. Now, this is what I've been waiting to do for a while. If you're part of this group, if you were sitting in section 108 at Hartman Arena a couple weeks ago, again, I want the visual. Stand up for me, please, if you were there. If you're sitting down right now, okay, now everybody can take a seat. But if you didn't stand up just a second ago, you have no idea what you missed. It was incredible. We had some freshman parents there that had never been to a varsity meet, and they were like, "Oh, are they all like this?" I was like, "Well, not really," but it was an absolute blast, and it was fun, yeah, because our kids were winning, but it was fun because of you guys, and it was fun because of everybody up here in 108. And here's your homework assignment. If you were, first of all, if you're one of the people that didn't stand up, get down to Wichita next year. I guarantee you won't regret it. And if you are one of the people that stood up, come back and bring a friend with you. Okay. And finally, I would like to thank, again, like, with that crowd, I know we harped on it before, you've seen me post about it online, but like, we went 7-0 in medal matches this year. That's ridiculous. Nobody does that. I've never seen that happen before. And you don't go 7-0 in medal matches without a whole lot of help from the crowd. So again, thank you for that. Now, I'd like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the people that make this program hum. Our coaching staff brings so much to the table for your kids. Each one of them has something unique that they bring, and they have their own way of connecting with wrestlers. And collectively, they make up the best staff that I've ever had. And let's see, Coach Hill's right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit every one of them real quick. You can see Coach Hill. Coach Presser's kind of the opposite. Okay, Coach Presser is the yin to his yang. Coach Hill's a really intense dude, really gets after it. Coach Presser's a lot more quiet and reserved, but he is without question the best technician that we've got on the staff. And he brings new stuff to us that kind of get me out of my old habits. I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. He gives us a great fresh take, and we really appreciate that. And usually, I save our head assistant coach for last, but tonight we're going to go a little bit out of order. Last year when Coach Schultz told me he was going home, going back to coach at Silver Lake, I thought we'd have a heck of a time finding a suitable replacement. Luckily, we had a 3-time state champ and former All-American walking the halls of Washington Monroe. And it is no accident that when Coach Z took the job here, our heavyweight went from state qualifier to 3rd at state, and our JV 220-pounder went from JV 220-pounder to 5th at state. That doesn't happen by accident. A lot of that was due to Coach Z working with those guys every day. He was a he was a tremendous addition to our program, and we're very grateful to have him, Coach. And this is in a way kind of a bittersweet night for me for many reasons, but partly because this is the last night that I get to sit next to Aaron Wilson as a colleague. Aaron is one of 2 people in this room, or at least on the staff, that have been here longer than I have. Aaron wrestled here, and then when I took the job here, I had the good fortune to coach Aaron for a couple of years, and then he's kind of been with us ever since. And his biggest strength is his ability to develop relationships with your kids. He can get through to those guys in ways that I often can't. And Aaron has graduated from college and he's got to enter the workforce, and that means that we can no longer afford him. But Aaron, I hope you know how much we appreciate your contributions to the program over the last who knows how many years. And you'll have to come back and visit us at tournaments because we still need somebody to get under the skin of the Junction City coaches. And finally, I'd like to share a passage from an email. I was emailing back and forth with one of our parents, and this is word for word what I sent to him. Because it relates directly to all of our assistants, but especially to Coach Short. As we were going back and forth and we were reflecting on the state tournament, I told him that at the beginning of the year, Gunnar had requested that if you make the finals, you have Coach Wilson in his corner. Since Coach Z is the head assistant coach, I had planned on, okay, if Gunnar makes the finals, we're going to have Wilson in the corner, and then Z will do all the others. However, circumstances as they were, we all agreed it would be appropriate to have Jordan in the corner for Bishop's match. And being to have them there for a finals victory was, that was just icing on the cake for that weekend. And having Jordan in the corner for that, that's a special thing. I've been waiting 7 years myself to sit in the corner for a state champ. And to have Jordan to be able to be there with us, that meant the world to me. And not just because of Ken's passing, but because Jordan's been here for 2 years, at World for 2 years longer than I have. And without Jordan, there's no way we would have had 3. Now, if you're relatively new to the program, you may not have known Jordan's father, Kenneth. He was instrumental in the creation of the Topeka Blue Thunder Wrestling Program. And without Kenneth, there's no youth wrestling club. It doesn't happen. He was one of our most avid supporters. He could regularly be seen at our high school wrestling events. And Kenneth tragically passed away the day after our regional tournament. 5 days later, when we were wrestling the first round of the state tournament, Jordan was at his father's funeral. He cares. He cares so much for your kids. The next morning, the day after his father's funeral, he was in Wichita so he could help your kids achieve their goals and dreams. And it's because because of the Short family's commitment to our program, that we have an anonymous person who wishes to memorialize Ken Short and his family with the Ken Short Memorial Wrestling Scholarship. And what the scholarship means is that every March for the next 5 years, $500 will be donated to pay for camp expenses for a Washburn Rural wrestler or wrestlers between 8th and 11th grade. Those eligible for consideration must have, by the coach's determination, demonstrated significant commitment to the Washburn Rural wrestling team, have shown that they are committed to developing as a wrestler, and who also have limited resources to attend the camp. If you fit that bill, talk to me. Now, I know the family responsible for this scholarship is in the room tonight, but I also know they wanted to remain anonymous, but I wanted to personally take this moment to thank them for that great gift, because every year it goes to one of our own. And it means the world to me, and it's a great memorial for Kenneth. So, thank you to that person. The people sitting up at this table, that's an incredibly diverse staff, but the one common denominator is how much all of these guys sacrifice to be here with your wrestlers. They're not here for the money, they're here for the love of the sport and the love of your kids, and a high school team is only as good as its coaching staff. And we've got the best one in the business up here, so thank you all for everything you did throughout the course of the year. This year, I get to thank another person, or people that I usually don't. I get to thank my mom and dad. Where are you, Mom and Dad? There they are. Mom was very adamant in not pointing them out and not letting everybody know that they were here, but I'm old and you can't ground me anymore. This is their first Rural Wrestling Banquet, and they still come every weekend and support me just like it's 1998. And I get just as excited to see them at tournaments now as I did back in the good old days. So thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you. Thank you. And finally, two people that aren't here and one that is. To Doak and Corinne and Lindsay Parker. There's no one in here that sacrifices as much as they do during wrestling season. And Lindsay, I say it every year, but I hope you know I mean it. Thank you for letting me do what I love. I'm truly blessed. I get to do a job that I love, and I'm constantly surrounded by people that I love, and I have a loving and supporting family at home. What else could you ask for? She's always there for a high five or a hug or a kick in the tail when I need it, and if I have an idea for our wrestling program, it goes through her before it goes through anybody else. She does a great job of tweaking those good ideas to make them better, and she does a great job of squashing those bad ideas so they never see the light of day. I saw a quote online yesterday that said, a man's success has a lot to do with the kind of woman he chooses to have in his life. And I have a great one in mind. So, thank you, Lindsay. Now I get to shut up for a while and get out of the way. So we're going to move on to our senior reflections. Now, they have all been coached. There should be no phones up here, right, fellas? Give a speech from no cards. But our first senior speech tonight will come from Mr. Blake Hayward.
Great start. Alright, first off, I want to thank Coach Barker for everything he does for our program. And I want to thank Coach Short for being with me the whole 5 years. And I want to thank Coach Wilson for always pushing me my hardest. It goes by fast, and I just want to tell all the underclassmen that if you really want to get better at this sport, you need to do as much as you can in the off season. And just try your hardest in the mat room. That's really all.
Who's next? There we go. Clay Brown. Come on, Clay. And wrestlers will go alphabetically, so you can look at those and figure out who's next.
Alright. So I've only been with this program for 2 years, and honestly it's been probably the best 2 years of my life. And not doing this whole wrestling thing for the past 4 years, it's been something that's really keeps me awake at night sometimes. And this is pretty fun. And I had some great upperclass, teammates with Gavin, Drake, and Kate. Probably one of the best practice groups you can really ask for, especially for a young guy like me, young to wrestling at least. But yeah, I want to thank my mom and my dad, because I know how much you guys probably hated me wrestling at first. I remember at Shawnee Heights tournament this one time. It was last year, so I was put in a crucifix. It was pretty embarrassing, but all I can hear is somebody yelling, "Don't hurt my baby." And I really knew this thing was for me when last year I've been tossing around my head, and I finally went to preseason conditioning and got in the mat room and weighed probably around 200 pounds at that point, and I got perfectly hip tossed by our own Dalton Sparling. It was great, and I thought, man, I really want to do this one day. And you guys kept me around ever since, each and every one of you. I want to thank you all.
Jesse Galloway, get up here, buddy.
Thank you all for coming. Tonight I will start by telling you how I got into wrestling. My dad wrestled in high school and college. My brother wrestled in middle school and high school. So going into 7th grade, I was expected to wrestle. Being 12 years old, I was afraid to. So instead, my dad figured I had to do a sport. So we played racquetball. It was fun to hit the ball around on my own, but when playing the game together, it felt more like dodgeball. So going into 8th grade, I decided to wrestle, and it turned out to be really fun. Last Friday, we played racquetball, and I got to thinking that 5 years ago was the last time I played it. 5 years ago, I met some of my dad's friends. They had not seen me since. Although we did not see them last Friday, I thought about what would they think of me if they did. 5 years ago, they would have seen me as a 95-pound kid. Today, they would see me as I am now. I feel like this is a good metaphor for our wrestling program. Five years ago, we may qualify a few. This year, we qualified 10. 5 years ago, we would have a few state placers. This year, we had 7. 5 years ago, 1 or 2 may have got to 3rd. This year, we got 1 5th, 3 3rd placers, and 3 champions. That's something really special. I would like to thank the wrestlers, both previous and here today. I'd like to thank every former senior for being a great role model that I can look up to. Going into freshman year, I was really nervous about wrestling. The upperclassmen made me feel right at home, and I had fun wrestling. I'd like to thank our current wrestlers, all of you today, for making me part of the greatest wrestling team Washburn has ever had. Some things don't change throughout the years, like how both past wrestlers and you guys today have made me feel like an outstanding person. So I thank you all for that. I'd like to thank the managers for keeping me from dying of dehydration during practice. I would like to thank Coach Parker. Thank you for coaching me throughout the years and turning me into who I am today. Before freshman year, I was iffy on wrestling, but after I got that letter from you, it made me think I have to wrestle now. I'm glad I went through it, and so I thank you for coaching me. I'd like to thank Coach Z for filling an important role this year, coaching all of us. I'd like to thank Coach Short for being my first wrestling coach in 8th grade. I'd like to thank Coach Wilson for pushing me every day in practice, even if he called me fish from time to time. I'd like to thank Coach Prester for being that cool, quiet coach I always wanted. I'd like to thank Coach Hill for being the cool, loud coach we always needed. Not pictured here, I would like to thank Coach Schultes. In the fall, my brother and I wanted to lift after school, so Schultes opened the weight room up for us. I will always remember him telling us, Always have a goal to be motivated for. My goal is to fit, for him, he said this, my goal is to fit in my Captain America costume for Halloween this year. So to me, he will always be Captain America. I would also like to thank a few others, like Coach Fitz for teaching me how to lift. I'd like to thank Brad Perry for healing my arm sophomore year. I'd like to thank Daniel Reeling and the Kids Club for giving us great wrestlers every year. I'd like to thank the parents for making us breakfast and cheering us at the meets. And I would like to thank my parents for making me who I am today and being supportive of me and the wrestling team. Thank you.
So right? Does that work? Okay. So I don't know how I'm going to top Double Guns Galloway, but I might as well try. Can't even open the paper to got me that nervous. First off, I'd like to thank the coaches. I'd like to thank Coach Prester for always having jokes in the bands and making me laugh. I'd like to thank Coach Wilson for wrestling me as a freshman, even though he still thinks he could beat me as a freshman. We both know that's not true. I'd like to thank Coach Short for always having that positive attitude in the wrestling room and the hard days when all we did were run zippers and that was needed. I'd like to thank Coach Hill for always keeping me mentally focused. I'd like to thank Coach Z for always coming in the mornings, wrestling me, and even though he probably doesn't believe it, but teaching me mental toughness and to be humble. And then I'd like to thank Coach Parker for getting me involved in wrestling and developing me as a man. As a freshman, I probably would have never came back out after the first tournament because I was supposed to be kicked off the team. I don't know if Coach Parker remembers about this, but the first tournament was Burlington, and it's like a 3-hour bus drive, and it feels like 3 days in that bus with the team. And I get down there, and I go 2-0, and I'm feeling like this is fun. Wrestling's cool. And my third match, I'm losing, and I'm on bottom. And at this point, like in my wrestling career, I didn't know what a crossface was. All I thought was this kid's rubbing his like forearm in my mouth. So what am I gonna do? I hit him. Down on the floor, and I got disqualified. At that point in time, Coach Schultz came over to me, and he's like, "Why'd you bite him?" And I said, "I didn't bite him." Even though you can clearly see the blood. Blood and the teeth mark on his arms after I shoot him. And the next morning I came in for Victoria, and Coach Parker called me in the wrestling room into the closet, and he said that he would give me a second chance because some things just happen for a reason, and that he still had faith in me to be one of the best heavyweights that this school has ever seen. And so 4 years looking back now, I'm thankful that he gave me that opportunity and that I was able to come through. Second of all, I'd like to thank all my teammates for pushing me throughout the years, always giving me nicknames, giving me hard times because I can't say the name Dalton, right? There's the one last time for you guys.
You did it right.
Okay. I'd like to thank all my practice partners, Adrian, Jake Wilson, Will Matherly, Coach Z, Coach Parker. I know I'm forgetting a lot of you, but you guys really pushed me throughout the year to never just be satisfied with how I was. And Coach Parker always says it, if there's a tougher practice group in the state for a heavyweight, I'd like to see it because there are a lot of times this year where I placed third, but Andrew Davis took me down. Coach Parker and Coach Z pushed me into a wall, and that made me better. There were a lot of times this year where I could have given up after I lost a match, but I remembered what I did that week in the practice room. And so it made me go and fight on for third and help the team succeed. And lastly, I'd like to thank my family and my parents, most importantly, because without them I wouldn't be here. I know it's hard to wake up at 5:30 in the mornings for a JV tournament, and that's just as a wrestler. So imagine being the parents and having to drive them there. I'd like to thank them for all the gas that they spent driving to the tournaments this year to see me and supporting me after every loss or after every win. It means a lot. Thank you.
Next up, Sam Jordan.
Hello, parents and fellow wrestlers. I want to start off by thanking my parents for getting me into wrestling. I got into 8th grade year, I wasn't doing any sports, and they were like, we're going to make you do wrestling. So I went through 8th grade year. I was 105 pounds, I was kind of chubby, and I didn't get any wins. I went winless. And so I went with it another year, and I didn't get any wins that year either. So I made the bad decision of taking a break for a year, and I thought that being in weights would be a good substitute for that year to get better for the next year. But I realized that whenever I came back junior year, I finished the season 9-9, and the thing that kept me going was in one of my first matches that I won, I came up, it was my stepdad. He was there because I didn't really have a father figure most of my life. And so in one of my first wins, I went up to him and he said, "I'm proud of you, son." And that's one of the greatest feelings I've ever felt. Because I felt like I had a father in my life. And finished that year breaking even, not a winning record, not a losing record. I was happy with it, but I wanted to keep going. I wanted to finish strong. So this season, I finished 19-4, 3-1 varsity record. I wish that I could have done more, gone to more camps, gotten some more varsity time, gotten more time on the mat. That was always fun. Before the matches, you'd always feel so anxious and stressed. But once you get out there, it's like, it's go time. And I always thought, just Coach Parker said, if you step on that mat, you're going to wish that you didn't. So I would get out there all hyped, and then once I won, I would look back in the stands and look back at my family, and I'd think, this is for you. And I'm glad that all of you are part of my family, and it's been an honor wrestling with you all and being with you throughout these last 5 years. Thank you.
Austin Jenkins.
I just want to thank everybody out there for coming here tonight and supporting us. First off, I'd like to give some shout outs. Shout out to the Oreo ball makers for keeping us hydrated, videotaping, and mopping the mats and keeping us healthy, in a sense. Shout out to my little brother for cheering me on and supporting me and not taking all the angriness that I gave towards him seriously. Shout out to my mom for being my emotional support and not killing me this season while cutting weight. Shout out to huge thanks to my dad for being my Mickey this year and doing everything he could to make sure I was on weight and as healthy as I could be. I want to thank Greg Murray and Nathan Carter for taking me to practices in Kansas City. Big thanks to my practice partners during regionals and state, Joel Goring and Caleb Johnson. I wouldn't be where I am without you guys. Also, I want to thank Jay Maxwell for taking me under his wing my freshman year and kicking my butt every day in practice. I can't imagine where I'd be without him. Coach Short, I want to thank you most of all for being my coach these last 5 years and letting me take you to practice. It's been a big pleasure. Thank you, Coach Presser, Coach Z, Coach Schultes for working with me. And lastly, I want to thank Coach Hill, Coach Wilson for advising me on weight cutting and being big believers and supporters of me. Now I'd like to share a memory with Isaiah from sophomore year. So we were going through challenges for the week, and Coach Barker was going through the list and got to Isaiah and said, Isaiah, you're the incumbent for this week. And Isaiah normally doesn't pay attention, and he turned back at Coach Barker and asked, did you just call me a cucumber? And all Coach decided to do was just shake his head and snicker. This season was very taxing mentally and physically. After I tore my ACL, I thought my senior year was over and I'd never wrestle again. But I came back and grinded after Christmas and made my cuts and made my goals. On top of tearing my ACL, my weight cut was intense, so insane that you could only imagine the excuses and injuries I would come up with in my head to not make it, not have to cut the weight. I knew in my heart not making weight was very detrimental to me, and not only me, but the team. Because the team had chances of becoming state champs, and it's the biggest goal of this team in the last 4 years. So basically, just from that, I'm trying to tell you younger guys that being positive and having a positive mind and clear head is what is helpful in accomplishing your goals. Embrace the grind as long as you can, you will miss it. You all probably thought I forgot to thank the big man, but that is not the case. I want to thank Coach Parker for being so patient and lenient with me this season. Also, thank you for being there for me almost as a second dad. If it wasn't for your abilities and knowledge in life and wrestling, this team would not be where it is today, and I thank you, and so does this program. We had the best state crowd this year. I have never witnessed anything like that in my life. It should be everybody should have an aspiration to go into a finals match like with the crowd that we did. All I heard was everybody chanting Jenkins, Jenkins the entire match. It was hard to even focus on the match. Yeah. Until wrestling for this program, I never knew what it really felt like to be on a winning team, let alone a team where you had a meaning and a job. Well, other than sitting the bench. I've learned a lot from wrestling, and I've gained a new family that I know will be there for me and back me up if I need it. It has been an honor to wrestle under the coaching staff here at Washington Rural. It has been a blast from beginning to end.
Come on up, big dog.
Thank you guys all for coming today. I want to thank Don first and thank my parents who couldn't make it today. I want to thank all the coaches. I want to thank Coach Z for filling up the spot. I don't really think anybody could fill up the spot for Schultes. It was a really big impact in my wrestling career. But Coach Z showed up and helped this program's heavyweights, everybody from 70 and up, very a lot. It was great having you there. I want to thank my practice group, making me a lot better, pushing me to my limits. I want to thank Coach Parker for making such a great team, for creating such a great program. I don't know what else to thank. I was going to thank everybody personally, but kind of thought I was going to make 2 minutes. I just don't know anybody's name besides these 4 lines. So just thank everybody. Thank you for being here.
That's it. Come on up.
Very
First, I'd like to thank my coaches, and then I'd like to thank my managers for filling up the water, making sure we're all staying healthy and awake. Next, I'd like to thank my teammates for always supporting me, being there for me, and just making sure we're not all down. And then my practice partners were also really big for me this year. Gunner, Cashton, and Austin helped push a lot of us. I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming and supporting us every meet. And then, that's it.
What's up, everybody?
All right, first off, I'd like to thank my parents for always pushing me to be my best. They were always taking me down to KC in Missouri for the best training around. At the time, I hated it, but now I can see how much it's paid off, and I'm very grateful for it. My favorite memory from going down there is the day Bowen and Bishop both forgot their wrestling shoes, and Bowen was wearing jeans and didn't have any shorts, so they weren't prepared to say the least. I'd like to thank my assistant coaches. You guys are awesome and are some of my best friends. My favorite memory from the assistant coaches is Wilson always hyping up my matches with Bazan by talking trash to the Junction City guys. He said he was always my promoter. This year's state tournament was the funnest tournament that I've ever been a part of, so I'd like to thank all the parents for the amazing support you gave us. You guys were the best and loudest crowd we have ever had, and the support you guys gave us was unbelievable, so thank you. My favorite memory was hearing my family cheer after I won my state title, and by family I mean everyone in here. Next, I'd like to thank all my brothers for being the best team I've ever been a part of. I love you guys, and one of my favorite memories is last year when Raul went out to his match with his singlet on backwards. Lastly, I'd like to thank one of my biggest role models. Damon Parker has not only been the best wrestling coach I could ask for, but also the best leader and mentor in life. I'm so grateful for the way he molds us, not only into great wrestlers, but also into great people and family men. Thank you.
Jay Silva, come on, Jay.
Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, it's been a bust for me because of injury. I sprained my ankle last year, and I sprained my MCL this year. That took most of the 2 seasons away from me. I never fully received all of the rewards that I wanted from wrestling, like winning state medals or becoming one of the top wrestlers or being ranked or even getting an honorable mention. But wrestling is one of the things in school that I like the most. I truly enjoy wrestling, and there's not a lot of things that I can say about certain things. Leaving the sport is going to be very difficult. Very difficult for me. I'm glad that I got to spend the last 4 years of wrestling with my favorite coach and with great teammates. I'm going to miss the meets, the bus rides home, eating out with the team, and the memories made. I want to thank my guardian at T for giving me rides the first 3 years to the early morning weigh-ins and coming to meets and supporting me. And taking me to off-season practices. I want to thank the managers for water. And I don't think he's here, but I want to thank Coach Schultz. He had a big impact on my JV career. He's a very, very good role model to me and a wise man. I want to thank the other assistant coaches for helping us and teaching us more about wrestling and life experiences. Coach Parker played a major role in my life. Whether he knew it or not, he was not. Coach Parker was my male figure in my life. Whether he knew it or not, the amount of how much he means to me is much more than anybody knows. I never got to grow up with someone to teach me right from wrong, and for the past 4 years, he was the man I looked up to. He's got me through a lot, and he's always had an answer for every question I've asked. He's a very understanding person, and every answer he's given me was very educational. Coach Parker is a very great leader to me, and hopefully to others. He brings a good atmosphere everywhere he goes around him. And I've been told that I'm a much happier person even when I'm around him and around wrestling. Coach is very humble, and he hasn't said this, but he won Coach of the Year. But he wasn't worried about that because he's more worried about the wrestlers' achievements. I want a big thank you, and I hope we can still stay in contact after I leave to pole vault at Pitt State University.
I would like to start off tonight by saying thank you to everyone who has supported me and helped me through my wrestling career, and to make me into the person I am today. I would like to thank Coach Parker, all the assistant coaches and Coach C, and all my wrestling teammates, Isaiah, Gunner, Austin, for pushing me to my limits. And I would especially like to thank my parents tonight. Without their support, I couldn't have achieved what I have this year without them. And they give me so much confidence in myself, and I don't know what to do without them. I would finally like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to wrestle. Wrestling has made me such a strong person and more confident in everything I do. It made me learn to never give up no matter what the odds are. Before I go out onto the mat, every time I go out onto the mat, my dad never tells me good luck, but he tells me never give up. And that's something I will always remember when I want to achieve a goal. Without wrestling, I wouldn't have learned this. Thank you to everyone.
Standing reflection, Claire Westphal.
Hi guys. Hi. Wrote out a little script because I'm gonna get nervous. So, hi everyone. My name is Claire Westphal, but I also answer to manager. Hey manager, or who are you again? Hi again. I'm glad to be an acquaintance. It might come as a shock to most, but during these past 3 or 4 months, us wonderful 4 women have willingly kept each and every one of you guys alive up to this point. If by this point you're wondering, how could this even be possible, and what do they actually do again, then I can maybe help jog some of your memories. Wrestlers, if you've ever seen 4 puddles of sweat in the corner, it was us just mopping the mats. Don't worry about it. Also, if you've ever wondered where all of these ice-cold, conveniently placed water bottles came from, boom, it was us again. We were ensuring your hydration because those zippers looked like they were going to be the death of you. We literally built you up and nourished you with water and Oreo balls, the perfect duo for a guaranteed win. You're welcome. All jokes aside, throughout these past 2 years of managing, I have grown to understand my part in this team. I counted down the months and then the days when this season started, because I was just so excited. When people asked what I exactly do during these months, I proudly say, I'm a manager for the WRHS wrestling team. Then, when confusingly asked what that entails, I think about it, and then think about it a little bit more. And long story short, say, I travel with the team, help out practices, and fill water bottles. But in all seriousness, I cannot put into words what it's really like being a manager. I became part of something so important to me just 2 years ago, and I wish I could have started sooner. I have made so many precious memories that I couldn't trade a single one. From last year's JV meet at Seaman, we all sat frozen to the seats because our bus wouldn't start. So the guys put on High School Musical songs and we sang our lungs out. Every one of these wrestlers have shown the acceptance, kindness, and selflessness, and I am proud to call them my friends. My bunch in the back of the wrestling room always thank me for water bottles, and you know who you are. Thanks, guys. Also, shout out to anyone who had helped me carry a water jug in and out of the wrestling room because these little noodle arms can't do it myself. So thank you for seeing my struggles. I'd also like to give a personal shout out to every single one of the coaches and especially the parents who have helped me get through this season. I can't thank you guys enough, and when I can barely get to school at 5 a.m. for Saturday night meets, you guys are always there in with breakfast, so that's amazing. Thanks, guys. Last but not least, thank you, Holly, Sadie, Danielle, and Carly for giving me 4 amazing best friends. I'm glad to have you in my life, from emotional van rides singing to old Taylor Swift. Thank you, Steve, for that. Appreciate it. Baking days at Danielle's house, after practice, dance parties, and hotel room shenanigans. You have allowed me to be myself and given me memories I will never forget. I love you guys. Of course, thank you. Sorry. Of course, I have to thank the magnificent Coach Parker. Thank you for bringing me into this program. I am forever thankful for all you do. I would like to end this sappy speech on an even more sappier note. One specific memory that I will hold to for the rest of my life would have to be from this year's state. I was down on the floor recording Bishop's finals match. I looked up and saw our entire section of rural fans shouting out, "Let's go Murray!" And it hit me that we literally had the loudest and most involved family of wrestlers out there. Every single one of the JV and varsity wrestlers, parents and close friends who all came down, were all on their toes cheering for our team. All of the support and energy coming from the center of the arena made me want to never leave. Thank you for making my senior year one I'll never forget. Thank you.
All right, moving on to recognition of individuals. Now, each person that is on our wrestling team, from the lowest man on the totem pole to a state champion, is so important to our program. Every kid in this program is vital. So that being said, our JV guys in here, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. So we make sure that in our banquet, we don't just recognize our varsity wrestlers, but we recognize everyone in our program. And I will try to expedite the process, but this does, to be completely honest, make our banquet last probably a little longer than most. But I know you'd all agree with me that your son is worth 30 seconds of individual recognition. So, again, to streamline the process, fellas, let's do it like this. When you see your mug pop up there, start walking up here and I'll start talking before you come around this way. We have at least a little something to give to everybody tonight. And what I would suggest to you guys is, whatever it is you take home with you tonight, go to the dollar store and spend 99 cents on a frame. It's something that you'll want to show your kids someday. Don't just let it sit on the floor of your car. Okay? All right, so first we're going to start off with our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And the first one we're going to talk about is freshman Brett Ashwell. Come on up, Brett. This year our freshman class was lower than usual in numbers, but by far it was the most, from top to bottom, high-quality freshman class I've had in my time at Burrell. And I think a lot of the reason that there aren't a whole lot of first-year freshmen coming out anymore is because now they know to get a sniff, before they can even get a sniff at varsity, they gotta run through guys like Brett Ashwell. He's one of those dudes that's just totally committed to our sport. Every time he wrestles a match, he has somebody film it for him, he texts it to me and he says, what are your pointers? Got 3 of them from him last weekend. And he has the most important quality for a young wrestler. He is extremely coachable. And plus, through hard work and self-dedication, the dude naturally lost, how much years this year? He lost about 50 pounds this year. Looks like a totally different human than he did back during football season. This is one we're really excited about for the future, and you can catch him wrestling at the district tournament this weekend because he won subs last weekend. Before he kind of caught the plague at the end of the year, this year he finished 3-1 at Holden, he was 2-1 at Blue Valley, 4-0 at Burlington, 3rd at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and he was a sub-district champion. This is Brett Ashwell. Next up, we got Mr. Joe Brady. Joe, come on up, Joe. Last year, Joe got hurt, and he had to miss pretty much the entirety of our season. So we're really looking forward to getting him back this year. But unfortunately, before any of us got a chance to watch him wrestle this year, he got hit with a super rare type of concussion. What's it called? What he said. It kept him out for the entire year. Here's the kind of kid he is. He wasn't allowed to be in the mat room because of loud music that we played, bright lights, whistles, all that kind of stuff. But even after the injury, you could find him in our locker room doing his homework, keeping up his 4.0 GPA so that he could be close to the action. And we wish we could have him back next year, but unfortunately, he and the family are moving to Massachusetts after this school year. So Joe, please stay in touch so that we can keep tabs on you and see how your story ends. So please give a round of applause to Joe Brady. Okay, next up, Mr. Hayden Curry. Okay, and how about, I know he was on his way out, David Dean's still here? There he is, all right, come on. Hey, David's another one of those talented freshmen that we had this year that we knew was going to be good coming in because we got a sneak peek at him last summer. As an 8th grader, he had the courage to come out to that Colorado camp and wrestle against varsity big dogs. We also had better attendance at our summer conditioning and open mat sessions than most of our upperclassmen did. And that work was a great springboard for him into his freshman year. This is a kid you're going to hear a lot about over the next 3 years. This year, David placed 4th at the Burlington Invitational. He was 3rd at Olathe North. He was the runner-up at Seaman and champion of the Emporium Invitational. Give it up for David Dean. Hey, Joel Garrett. Come on, Joel. A few years back, Eric Singer, the Topeka High head wrestling coach, he talked to me about how when he was a freshman in high school, his high school coach, he didn't qualify for state, but his high school coach took him anyway so that he could kind of get a look at it. And then Eric said that after he did that, he told his coach, he goes, now I know what I want to dedicate the rest of my life towards. So I thought, that's a really cool idea, we're going to steal it. And so for the last few years, every year we take a freshman or two down with us to the state tournament. And Joel was the first one that we took this year. He is another one of those stud football guys that we recruited from middle school, and this dude has got next level written all over him. Reminds me so much of freshman level Cole Wells, who again went from JV wrestler to winning record on varsity as a sophomore. I don't think he missed a single day of summer open mats. He took the tilt series that we taught over the summer and he made it his, as you can see in the photo here. He's got a 4.1 GPA. He was selected as our wrestler of the week. He was one of our freshmen that we took with us to state, and we are over the moon for this kid. This year, Joel was champion at Olathe North, champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and undefeated at Holden. This is Joel Garrett. Hey, Hunter Coling. I've not seen Hunter tonight. He's sick. All right, Gerald Mann. Gerald Mann. Spoiler alert, Gerald, you didn't win the most improved wrestler award that we're going to give out later. But he got a gang of votes, mainly from our upperclassmen. Upperclassmen voted a ton for Gerald this year, which means that you definitely garnered the respect of pretty much everybody on this team. And every year I have one surprise, and this year Gerald was my surprise. If you would have asked me after our first practice, I never would have guessed that Gerald was going to make it the entire season. I didn't think he was going to make it the week. But he never, I mean, seriously, like we're a high-level program, never had any wrestling experience, and had no idea what he was in for when he came in. And it was a slow process at first. He was coming in at over 2 minutes on the zippers, when we expect our heavyweights to come in about a minute and a half. But after Christmas break, something just kind of clicked for him. And when you watch him now, you'd swear he's been doing this thing for years. This year, Gerald was 4th at Shawnee Mission Northwest. And then as the year progressed, he got better and better. When we went to Olathe North, he was 3rd, and he finished the year as champion of the Burlington Invitational. He's wrestling for Topeka Blue Thunder. He's committed, and he's got a great future in front of him. This is Gerald May. Guys, be careful of these wires when you come up here. Don't trip and kick those out. Joe Phillips, come on up. Joe is another one of our freshmen that came to us pretty green this year. After the first meet, we thought that he might struggle to win a match or two this year. But as the year went on, his coachability and his athletic ability started to pay dividends for him. And I remember telling another coach, Joe reminds me of a guy that you've heard mentioned a couple times tonight. He's a lot like freshman year Jay Maxfield. Some of you old timers that have been around, if you remember what Jay was like as a freshman, there are a whole lot of similarities there. And if you don't know who Jay is, he's a kid that started off wrestling as a freshman, had never done it before, ended up as a team captain, and has his name on the wall several times downstairs. One thing that'll tell you a lot about Joe is a match he had earlier in the year, and you'll have to help me with which tournament, I forget which one it was, Joe, but he was wrestling a student that had special needs. And without any prompting from the coaching staff, Joe went out there and he sacrificed his chance at an individual medal by making that other wrestler's day. He kept it competitive. He didn't just go out and lay down for the kid. He kept it competitive, kept him close, and ultimately let the other wrestler win. And it was truly a touching moment for everybody in the gym. And it says a lot about Joe as an individual. This year, Joe was 5th at Holton. He was 3rd at Burlington, 3rd at Seaman. He was the runner-up at Olathe North, runner-up at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and he carries a 4.14 GPA. This is Joe Phillips. Richardson in the house? Okay. What about Remington Styles? Remington, come on. Hey, Remington is another one of those great freshmen that threw his hat in the ring in Colorado following that 8th grade year. President pretty much every summer conditioning session we had, and this kid is bought in. He's wrestling for Topeka Blue Thunder, and he qualified for districts. You'll see him on our mats this weekend. He gets it done in the classroom as well. He is currently carrying a 4.28 GPA. And this year we kind of had a log jam around that 145, 152 area. That's kind of where most of our depth was. And not just with our freshmen, but with everybody. And he's right up there with the best, and we're hoping that like after a big summer at Eaton and lifting, he comes in about 170 next year. We'll be afraid to get seconds tonight. This year Remington was runner-up at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was undefeated at Holton. He was a champion at Burlington. He was a champion at Olathe North, and he is a district qualifier for Topeka Blue Thunder. This is Remington Styles. Okay, Logan Titan. One thing a lot of these guys that we've talked about so far have in common is their uncommon commitment. Most high school kids they aren't willing to put in the hours. It's too much fun chasing girls around the pool in the springtime and the summertime. It's too much fun doing other stuff. They're coming in and lifting or doing the open mat thing. But Logan's as committed as they come. If we got a team meeting, he beats me there. If we got an open mat session, he's in the room with shoes on before I am. He's wrestling for Topeka Blue Thunder. He's going to do freestyle Greco with us in the off season. And at our upper weights, we got some real studs at those varsity level. At the varsity level. But as Logan gets older, and he continues to put pennies in that jar, as long as he's patient, he's going to catch up sooner rather than later. And this is one that I promise you'll hear a lot about down the road. This year, Logan was 5th at Holton. He was 3rd at Emporia, runner-up at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and runner-up at Burlington. This is Logan Titan. Hey, Jake Wilson. Remember when I was talking about Gerald like being my surprise? 3 years ago, Jake was my surprise. Jake doesn't surprise anybody anymore. we know what we're getting when Jake Wilson comes to town. He kind of used to be, and no offense, Jake, he used to be the nail. Now he's the hammer. He puts it to people. He is a weight room warrior, and if you go in our weight room, you'll see his name all over the record board up in there. Jake is one that I'm hoping packs on some serious pounds between now and next year, because Jacob Lindenning left some size 22 shoes to be filled in the heavyweight weight class. And I can see Jake taking on that role quite nicely. And here's kind of where his growth is at. I didn't look back at his freshman year. But last year, his only medal was third place in Emporia. This year, Jake was third at Burlington. He was runner-up at Olathe North. He was champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest and champion at Emporia. This is Jake Wilson. Please tell me we got TJ in the house. No TJ? Hey, next up, we're going to talk about our letter winners. So as you come up, letter winners, I will have something to give to you, as will Coach Z. If I make a mistake or if our records aren't right, you're supposed to get a letter, but instead you got the pen. If you hold up one of those letters, Coach. There we go. If you've never lettered before in any sport, you'll get one of those that goes on the letter jacket. If you have lettered, like say you lettered in tennis, you get one of the, or you don't get one of those tonight, you get the pin to put on there. Okay, so if our records are incorrect, please, before you leave tonight, let me know. I have been known to make many mistakes. But first things first, I want to talk about our managers. So let's bring all four of those gals up here. Come on up, ladies. Oh, dang it. Okay. If there is a better managing crew in the state, I'd love to meet them. These girls take far better care of us than we deserve. Again, all of those matches that you see in the highlight tapes, those all came from Huddle, where our managers filmed every single one of those matches. A lot of the photos that you see on the wall were taken by them. They came in over Christmas break so that you guys could have water during your practices when they're supposed to be on vacation. They make cookies, they make Oreo balls, they teach all of our wrestlers how to sing and dance. They're fantastic, and we're better because of that. And the coolest thing about this crew of gals up here, if you watch film on Huddle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter which one of them is holding the camera. I could tell you who is filming the match by the screams I'm hearing through the microphone. Like, these gals care about your kids. And that's not just our varsity ones, that's our JV ones too. They're screaming louder than mom and dad are up in the stands. And I think that's a really cool thing. We've never had that before. And so please give a huge round of applause to Danielle Pankos, Claire Westfall, Carly Purdy-Facere, and our managing team captain, Sadie Strader. Hey, next up, Mr. Babbitt. Alex, come on. Here's some high praise for you, Alex. If you guys have been around for a while, when you watch Alex Babbitt wrestle, he reminds you a whole lot of a young Austin Jenkins, which is appropriate because Alex got his first real taste of varsity this year when he was filling in for Austin after Austin tore his ACL. And I've always said a varsity team is only as good as its depth. And Alex provided some great depth for us this year, getting his first real varsity taste at the Newton Tournament of Champions. Welcome to varsity. If you don't know, that's a lot of times that's tougher than the state tournament. And also at the Olathe South Duels. And he's got the frame to put on some really good weight for us. And after a great year in the weight room, he's going to be competing next year for a full-time varsity job rather than just spot duty. This year he was at the varsity Sabetha Duels. He was 4-1. He was a runner-up at Seaman. He was undefeated at Holton, and he carries a 4.19 GPA. This is Alex Babbitt. Hey, Isaiah Bailey. Okay. All right, Coach Wilson earlier this year told me that Isaiah was one of his favorite JV kids to watch because he could throw from just about anywhere. And I really only get to go see our JV kids at that Burlington meet at the end of the year. And to be honest, I expected to see what we call 7th grade headlocks, a whole bunch of those things. But when he went out there to wrestle, he was crazy athletic, all kinds of level changes, taking shots to set up his throws. He reminds me a whole lot of Preston Williams. And Isaiah would be varsity on a lot of teams, but the problem is, the guy in front of him on the depth chart is Preston Williams. But his time's coming. He's going to have to be patient, but his time is coming. He is a Colorado regular for us. He's wrestling for Topeka Blue Thunder. You're going to hear a lot about Mr. Isaiah Bailey in the future. This year he went 4-1 at Sabetha. He was undefeated at Holton, undefeated at Blue Valley, champion at Burlington, and the champion of the Seaman Invitational. This is Isaiah Bailey. Peter Brady, come on up, Pete. Peter is the future of heavyweight for some lucky coach in Massachusetts. This year he was our second string heavy, but he made a huge jump from last year to this year. He really battled the injury bug this year, big time knee injuries and shoulder injuries. But some weekends he knew we needed him because we were sending our JV off to do varsity thing. And he stepped up to the plate, pushed through some pain, and put together a really nice season for us. This year Peter was the champion at Burlington. He was the champion at Holton. He was 4-1 at the varsity Wildcat duels, and he has got a blistering 4.47 GPA. We wish him the best of luck, and Peter sent me video links from next year when you're wrestling varsity in Massachusetts. This is Peter Brady. Okay, up next, Jake Brown. Come on up, Jake. Is also just kind of taking that next step up the ladder every single year. He got some significant varsity time for us this year when Dalton was out with an injury. And Jake is another multi-sport athlete for us who's played baseball in the past. He excels on the football field, and he's a highlight machine. If you watch that preseason hype video that we've got, we saved his for last because it's just ridiculous. We really look forward to having Jake crack into that varsity lineup next year as a senior. This year he was 4th at Burlington. He was 3-1 at Holton. He was he was the champion at Holton. He was 4-1 at Sabetha duels, and he was the champion at Seaman. This is Jake Brunt. Hey, Mr. Kress, come on up. At the end of this year, Caden might have a serious argument and be able to lay claim to the best non-varsity wrestler on the planet. In all seriousness, we tell our kids from the beginning of the year, we will not have any JV wrestlers. We'll have varsity wrestlers that are on the JV squad because of depth, but we won't have any JV wrestlers. And Caden Kress fits that bill. In fact, I'm not sure he wrestled a JV match until like the very tail end of the season. And he finished the year with a varsity record of 22-4. There aren't many teams out there with kids that have a 22-4 record. In fact, that's good enough for 3rd best on our team. The vast majority of teams would kill to have Caden on their roster. And I'd kill for them to add another weight class in there so we could get him out there full time. But with his relentless work ethic, his time's coming. He's going to do Topeka Blue Thunder this year, and check out this resume. This year he was 3rd at Shawnee Mission South Varsity Tournament. He was the runner-up at Bishop Carroll Varsity Tournament, undefeated at the Varsity Wildcat Duels, champion at the Varsity Leavenworth Challenger, undefeated at Varsity Sabetha Duels, and champion at Burlington. And it is rare that this happens, that someone that doesn't finish a year on varsity gets this, but he garnered the attention of others as he was voted honorable mention All-City by the Topeka area head coaches. This is junior Caden Kress. Cam Douglas, come on, Doug. Every year, I told our kids before the Blue White this year, and I've said this every year to them, every year, without fail, I have one kid that loses a match at Blue White, realizes he's probably not going to be varsity, and then he comes and rings the bell and quits. And all week I was telling her, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy that does that. It's going to be a baby because he quit because he lost the challenge match. And Caleb lost a heartbreaker. And like 2 minutes afterwards, he comes up to me and he goes, hey, coach, and on the inside, I'm just thinking, no, not you, Caleb, not you, not you. And then he says, our JV team's going to be fire this year. That's like his attitude, man. He just kept plugging along, kept challenging week after week after week, and finally took over the role as our varsity 13-pounder. And then the unthinkable happens. And I'm going to try to get through this without getting angry. But you guys that were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Officials are not perfect. None of us are. But in the blood match at regionals, you win, you go to state. You lose, you go home. There was the most egregious officiating error I've seen in 25 years in this sport. Long story short, the official raised the wrong kid's hand. And then he convinced himself that he raised the correct kid's hand. And like I asked the ref at the table, I was like, what do you want me to tell my kid right now? He followed the rules, he did what he needed to do, he scored the points, and you raised the other kid's hand. That was tough for me to take as a coach. It was about as livid as I've ever been. As I told Caleb, someday I will be on my deathbed, and I'm going to yell out, but you counted twice. Because that's what happened. And there's a reason that it's at the tail end of our regional highlight video. But in my discussions with the ref, like I said, I did not handle the situation with the utmost grace. But Caleb did. We always preach to our kids to control what you can control. And those things that are outside of your control, you have to let them go. And by the time one of our next guys was up, Caleb wasn't up there sulking in the stands. He was at Matt's side, cheering on his teammates, doing what little he could do to help out the guys that were still alive despite the situation. And I'm so proud of this kid, not just for what he's done, but for who he is. This year, Caleb was champion of the Latham North. He was champion at Seaman. He was second in the Centennial League, and he was voted second team All-City by the Topeka area coaches. This is Caleb Douglas. We have a cowboy in the house. No cowboy? Hey, in that case, let's talk about Dominic. Dominic is another one of those with an uncommon dedication to our sport. He started when he was very young, and last year he began that transition. Because it's always a tough transition to go from really successful kids wrestler to stepping into a high school mat room like ours. And it seemed like everywhere that we went, Dominic was one of the best ones out there. And this year, he was a tweener. You know, we talked about with Jake Brunton taking that next step up the ladder. This year he was a tweener. He was a kid that was 2 points away from earning the varsity position going into the league. And he pretty much smashed everybody at the JV level. There's nobody there that's at his level. And next year we expect him to continue to progress, take that next step up the ladder, and be a full-time varsity wrestler. This year he was second at Burlington, second at Emporia. He was undefeated at Blue Valley. He was champion at Seaman. He was undefeated at the varsity Sabetha duels. He was undefeated at Holton. This is Dominic Holthouse. Carson Abel, come on up, Carson. Much like Brett Ashwell, Carson is another true student of the game. I've been looking forward to doing this one all week. Because he's one of the most coachable kids we got on the team, which comes as no surprise due to apples and trees and such. But when we selected our freshmen to go to state with us this year, Carson wasn't selected. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, Coach, I got a question for you. What are they doing that I'm not? Listen to my voice inflection there. He said, what are they doing that I'm not? He was actually asking the question. He wasn't whining. He wasn't saying, well, what are they doing that I'm not? It wasn't that. He wanted to know where he could improve. He wrestled at the sub-district tournament 2 days ago, and he didn't qualify for districts. And on the way home, he was watching film. And when his mom asked if it was hard for him to watch those matches that he lost, he replied with, no, it's not. Because I learn a lot more from watching the matches that I lose. And then check this out. He pulls a book, a real book, out of his backpack and reads a passage to his parents, which said, there is so much more to life than who came away with a gold medal around their neck. The question is not who walked away victorious. The question is, who grew as a human being when the shoes left the mat? And since he didn't qualify for districts at 14 and under, guess what he did? He signed up to wrestle high school next weekend so he can just start chipping away at that 30-match off-season goal. And I wish all of our wrestlers would take the same approach towards their personal growth in our sport. But with his attitude, kids like this have no choice but to be successful. This year he was third at China Mission Northwest. He was third at Latham North. He was champion at the Burlington Invitational, and he has a 4.0 GPA. He was also selected as one of our wrestlers of the week. This is Carson Engel. Johnson in the house? He is not. I know that I am missing a slide though. Is David Huckstep in the house? Come on up, David. He may pop up later. We'll have to do that picture. My bad, David. Did I accidentally skip?
Go back to.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There he is. Sorry about that. Okay, all right. First starting to get to know David as an 8th grader. He kept like poking his head into our varsity practices, like kind of see what's going on in there. And he always seemed to be around trying to learn. And now he's gone from spectator to heir apparent at the varsity heavyweight position. David had the good fortune to spend a year under Jacob Glendenning, and literally and figuratively, learning the ins and outs of the heavyweight game. And if you look at his results, he continued to get better and better every single week as the year went on. He was 4th at Emporia the first tournament of the year, and that was his worst performance of the year, placing 4th. He was in 3rd at Olathe North. He was 2nd at Holton. He was champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, champion at Seaman, champion at Burlington, where he slammed the kid so hard I thought he might have actually killed him. Earning his first varsity letter, this is David Huckstep. Jalen's not here. What about Caleb Johnson? Is he in the house? So what? He had to take off. Okay. What about Parker Pollock? I know Parker's here. Come on up. Hey, if we can, we just talked about the heir apparent. Here's the other half of the heir apparent. If we can keep Parker healthy for next year, he's going to be one of those challenges for the varsity role at heavyweight. He has all of the tools to be successful, but this year he battled an arm injury that kind of kept him out for the majority of the year. However, his best work for this year was done once the JV season was over. He knew his role, and he did it absolutely to the best of his ability. And there is no way that Andrew Davis places at state without the work that Parker Lawley put in this year, especially over the last 2 weeks of the season. This year, Parker was 3-2, wrestling the varsity at Burlington, and he was undefeated at the Sabetha varsity duels. This is Parker Lawley. All right, let's go back to Caleb Johnson. Caleb, come on up. Best dressed guy in the house. One of Caleb's best traits as a wrestler is he is always seeking out the toughest competition on our mat room. And at one practice this year, he jumped in with Gunnar Murray, and Gunnar Murray did to Caleb what Gunnar Murray does to everybody else. And afterwards, I went up to him and I said, "Yeesh, yikes, how is that?" And he goes, "I love it, makes me better." He's been battling a shoulder injury since the end of last year, and we're hoping that we can keep that thing in place for a couple more years, because this is one that's just about to turn the corner. This year he was 4th at Seaman. He was 2nd at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was undefeated at Holton. He was a champion of the varsity Leavenworth Challenger. He was a champion at Burlington. He looks great in the tuxedo. This is Caleb Johnson. Any of my other guys come in we had to skip over? If they do, holler at me, folks. Okay, we did Parker. Bill Smatterly. Come on up, Bill. I do my best not to have too many deep conversations with Will, because when I do, it's like, wow, this kid is so much smarter than I am. Will's best quality is his leadership ability. He is a leader in the classroom and on the mat, which is why pretty much every weekend we had him serving as what we call our JV ranking officer. If somebody's got a question, go talk to Bill. If you want to go out to eat, go talk to Bill, right? He also was instrumental in Davis's success this year and was named our Wrestler of the Week after regionals when he didn't even wrestle. Because of the prep that he gave to Andrew Davis. Andrew lost 3 times to the same Junction City kid because that kid was great with underhooks. So we told Will, all week, your only job is underhooks. I don't care how many points it costs you at practice, nothing but underhooks. And then the kid went out and tried underhooks against Andrew and it didn't work. And Andrew ended up pinning it. And it was just as much him and a couple other guys winning that match as it was Andrew. Now, our program cannot operate without kids like Will Matherly. And Andrew, you better keep working in the offseason because Will wants that spot as bad as anybody does. This season, he was 3rd at Emporia. He was champion at Seaman, undefeated at Holton, champion at Burlington, champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, got his first taste of varsity at the Cougar Invitational, and wrestled varsity at Bishop Carroll, and he is our first statistical award winner of the evening, having the highest cumulative GPA of any wrestler that I have ever coached, 4.85. 5'7". This is Will Adams. Bowen Murray, come on up, Bo. Okay, for just a second, I want you to imagine the pressure that comes with his last name. Seriously, it doesn't matter if you placed second at state last year or you're coming in as a freshman. The name Murray brings some pressure with it. When literally half of the state champions in our program's history have the last name Murray, there's an unbelievable amount of pressure that comes with that name. And what I told Bone at the beginning of the year was like, you have to do the best you can to block all of that out and just be Bone. Don't be Bone Murray, just be Bone. Don't approach it any differently than anybody else on the team would. Just be you, and every day strive to be a little bit better than you were the day before. And he took it to heart, and he did exactly that. Without Bone's performance against the state finalist from Blue Valley Southwest, we don't win that game. Without him making the finals at Shawnee Mission Northwest, we don't win that tournament. He was an indispensable part of our team this year. So much so that when he was no longer our varsity wrestler, he was the other freshman that our captains and our coaches voted to bring along with us to state, because he's vital to our success. Our varsity guys were not used to operating without him there, and so they insisted that he come. This year he was second at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He had a winning varsity record, and this guy's just getting started. This is Bowen Murray. Zach Renaud, come on up, Zach. Hey, Zach is one of my favorite kids to watch wrestle live matches because he wrestles like that long curly hair is on fire. He is absolutely relentless. And you saw it when we wrestled against Blue Valley, and he was behind in the third period. Go back and watch that tape. Anybody know how many headlocks he attempted to try to catch back up? 6 headlocks in one period. Take a headlock, get back to his feet, try it again. He is, oh, and I see it every day in the weight room too. If we were having a pull-up competition in there, he's one of those kids that would just die before he let go of the bar. A team first guy as well. We were loaded at 113, so he bumped up to 120, and he knew he'd be giving up about 10 pounds in every match, which is huge when you're wrestling 120 pounds. But he knew he could help out our team because we had nobody else there after Babin went up to 126. He was also selected, he was our third and final wrestler, selected by our captains and coaches as our freshman to go to state, and the next time he goes there, he'll be competing there. This year, Zach was third at Siemens, second at Holden, second at Burlington, undefeated at Blue Valley, champion at Emporia, undefeated at the Sabetha varsity duels. This is Zach Renaud. Take it, Springfield, come on, take it. Tegan brings some much needed soul to our wrestling team. It doesn't matter what kind of music we're playing at practice, whether it's Journey or some newfangled hip hop song that I've never heard before. The dude knows every word. He has an attitude that's absolutely infectious in the room. And in addition to being the resident dance champion on the team, Tegan has actually blossomed into quite the wrestler over the last couple of years. He's gotten to the point where he's dominating everybody in his practice group. Sorry, fellas. And every time I go to that corner, he just kind of seems to be on top. And he's ready to make that transition and challenging on a weekly basis for the varsity job. This year, Tegan was second at Holton. He was undefeated at Blue Valley, champion at Emporia, champion at Burlington. This is Tegan Stringfield. John Vincent, the legend. As many of you know, John last year earned the title of most ridiculous weight cutter on the team. This year, he decided to focus a little bit less on cutting massive amounts of weight and more on developing as a wrestler. And young guys, in the long run, that's where it's at. Okay? Be patient. Be like John. If there's an open varsity position, then by all means, go for it. But if not, work on yourself first. And there's no one who's as committed to that personal development as John is. We've had a bunch of wrestlers. Put your hands up. I don't know a lot of them have graduated, but put your hands up if you've gone to the J-Rob camp. Okay, Dominic, how long was that camp? It's a 10-day camp in Iowa. They have another camp. It's 28 days long. And if you've heard about the J-Rob camps, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard about it, I never signed up for it. I was too scared. I didn't sign up for the 10-day. I darn sure wouldn't sign up for a 28-day. But that's what he's going to be doing this summer, in addition to joining us in Colorado. He has dedicated the 12th of this year of his life to spending all day, every day, getting better as a wrestler. It's an insane commitment that I'm so proud of him for making. Unfortunately, John this year received quite possibly the worst concussion that I have ever seen as a wrestling coach in one of our practices. He was just on another planet. And while the doctor told him to stay home, he still planned on coming in, sneaking into our practices so he could keep his Iron Man streak alive. And I'd kick him out, tell him not to come back in. He's the kind of kid that will knock down your door until you tell him no. In the time that he was able to participate this year, he did a phenomenal job for us, placing third at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was second at Olathe North. He was second at Burlington. He was undefeated at Blue Valley. He was the champion of the varsity Leavenworth Challenger. And he's already gotten a huge jump start on his off-season goal of 30 matches. How many have you gotten in so far? He's gotten in 10 matches already. We haven't even had districts yet. He's off to a great start. Can't wait to see the junior year. This is John Vincent. Okay, next up, Cole Wells. I can't remember which coach it was, sorry guys, but at the Bishop Carroll tournament earlier this year, after watching Cole wrestle a few times, I was like, man, Cole's got all the ingredients. He just needs to go back in the oven for a little while because he's not quite done yet. And I had an absolute blast this year watching him become done. Every week the kid got a little bit better to the point by where when we were at the league tournament, he was pinning kids that had beat him handily earlier in the season. And the thing that people often forget about Cole is he was wrestling up a weight class. Every single week he could have qualified for the 152 class, but he was wrestling at 160. And that's around the area where the boys start to become men. There is an upside for Cole that we don't see very often. And he is going to play a vital role in us bringing home hardware again from state next year. This year he was 5th at the Cougar Invitational, 5th at Shawnee Mission South. He was 4th at the Centennial League Tournament. He was undefeated at Olathe North. He was the champion of the varsity Leavenworth Challenger. He was voted honorable mention All-City by the Topeka area coaches. And as just a sophomore in his first year of varsity wrestling, he led us in 2 statistical categories, one for the most reversals and one for the most three-point near falls. This is Cole Wells. Next up, Ty Wellington. If you've seen Ty in a singlet, that picture doesn't do it justice. You need one from the front. The dude is built like a brick outhouse. He is just a solid wrestler through and through. And this year, we finally got to be able to dip his toes into the varsity waters. Finally, he's a sophomore. But it would not surprise me in the least to see him get a significant, if not be the full-time varsity guy next year. He's another one that we definitely want to keep around we wanted to keep around after the JV season was over, because he did a great job preparing Cole and Dalton for the postseason run. And he did a great job in that role. And this year he was 4-1 at the varsity Sabetha duels. He was undefeated at Holton, and he has a 4.238 GPA. This is Ty Wellington. Okay, now we're going to talk about our seniors. And first of all, kind of going off the cuff, seniors, without question, that was the best run of senior reflections that we've ever had. That was so good. I can tell you guys put thought into that, so thank you for that. First up, let's talk about Mr. Avery. Wait, come on up. Blakey is, last year you might remember me standing up here and calling out Blakey is the next big thing. Going from a pretty much full-time JV guy, other than 1 or 2 tournaments, into a full-time varsity guy, and he did not disappoint. He's one of the most electrifying kids we've got on our team. He is a human highlight reel because he's one of those guys that would rather throw you than know you. He is one of the few that we've ever had that could somehow throw from the bottom position. And I played a huge role in our team's success this year. As our senior varsity full-time 145-pounder, he was a runner-up at Shawnee Mission South. He was the champion of the Leavenworth Invitational. And he had if you had to pinpoint it, we called it out in the Capital Journal. It was the key pin. It was a turning point when we beat the number 3 team in the state, Blue Valley Southwest. He was voted honorable mention All-City by the Topeka area coaches. He's got a 4.0 GPA, and next year Blake's going to be attending KU and pursuing a degree in engineering. Please give a round of applause to senior. Okay, next up, Clayton Brown. Come on. I'm always surprised when I watch Clay wrestle, and not because he's doing well, because I always forget he's only been with our program for 2 years. You watch a kid of his caliber wrestle, and like, that transition usually takes 3 to 4 years to do, and he did it in a very short time. It is very rare that we get upperclassmen that come out as first-year wrestlers, because it's hard, but it's even more rare that they make it to the finish line. And we are so proud of Clayton for all he's accomplished, especially crossing that finish line as a senior. And we definitely needed him this year. When Gavin went down with that gnarly ankle injury, it sure was nice having a point scorer behind him. It would have been difficult to go to those Latham North duels and just let them raise the other kid's hand and get up 6 points every time. But not only did he go out there and wrestle, he went out and wrestled well. He won us a ton of matches. He had huge varsity wins that helped us take home hardware from Beloit and the Latham North. He garnered the attention of the Topeka area coaches, being named an honorable mention All-City, and he finished his career as a champion, taking first place at the Burlington Invitational. He's also a standout in track and field, which he plans to continue in college at either Washburn or Western State. Please give a round of applause to senior Clayton Brown. Jason Galloway. I don't know where the guns up thing started, but that's one thing that I'll never forget about. I'll hear the name Galloway and I will always think of that. Makes me giggle every time. The other thing I'll never forget is how ridiculously committed this kid is to his goals. This is such a cool story. Last summer, we were doing a goal setting exercise, and most kids wrote down the requisite: I want to be a state champ, I want to be a state medalist, I want to go wrestling in college. Jason gave it some real thought, and he wrote down, I want to go to college with confidence. I think that's pretty intuitive of a high school kid. He's the only one that can really attest to whether or not that goal has been accomplished, but from an outsider's perspective, there's no question, especially when I think about the kid that stood up here as a freshman. He was in the weight room before school, 5 days a week, pretty much for the entirety of his high school career. Not just during season, not just during the spring, every day, without question, every single day. And I think at this point he owns at least one rack in there just due to eminent domain. But he's ridiculously committed. We hear anytime we call him to come up here, he's a fan favorite. And we are truly going to miss him around here. This year Jason was 6th at Holton. He was 5th at Latham North, 4th at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was 3rd at the Wildcat Duels. He was 2nd at Burlington. And he's got a 4.0 GPA and gave one of the best senior speeches I've ever heard. Give it up for Jason Galloway. Okay, up next, Mr. Harris. Come on up, Jordan. Okay, the two greatest parts of my job are, number one, the relationship that I get to develop with kids. And number two is watching my kids grow and develop. And I'll tell you, I've had a whole lot of fun watching Jordan Harris grow as a wrestler and as a person. Jordan came to us, he told you earlier he weighed 105 pounds. I will bet you my house he did not weigh that much when he walked in the doors as a freshman. He's put on about 40 pounds since the freshman year. And that is some serious muscle. And he learned to wrestle along the way. And if you go back and watch tape from that freshman year, but from last year as well, you'd think it was a completely different kid. Like you would never pick out his freshman or even junior year film from this year. And again, I thought that was one of the most touching and interesting speeches that I've ever heard tonight. So I appreciate you putting that thought into that. This year he was 4th at Emporium. He was 2nd at Seaman. He was a champion of the Burlington Invitational. He's a 2-year varsity letter winner with a 19-4 record and a winning varsity record. He's got a 4.0 GPA, and he plans on pursuing a degree in optometry. Please give it up for senior Jordan Harris. Hey, there it is, Adrian. Adrian Martinez. Hello, Adrian. Adrian's one of the other guys outside of Bill that we had as a JV ranking officer, because he's a leader. He's one of the highest character kids that I've had the pleasure of coaching. Coach Z's only been with us for 1 year, but I remember Coach Z being like, I'm like legitimately gonna miss Adrian after he graduates, and we all feel the same way. My favorite story about Adrian comes from this picture. Side note, young guys, if you ever are pinning a guy and you smile, I will kill you. But at the Burlington tournament, in his last match, Adrian did just that in the championship match. And whichever coach was angrily talking to him afterwards said, dude, did you just smile for the camera out there? And he says, come on, coach, it's my last match, give me a break. Fair enough. This year, Adrian was third at Seaman, second at Emporia, undefeated champion at Burlington. Got a ton of varsity time with us as well. This is senior Adrian Martinez. Hey, Isaiah Maxwell. Well, Isaiah. Isaiah wrestled for us as a freshman, then as a sophomore. He didn't let her as a freshman, didn't wrestle a single varsity match. As a sophomore, he qualifies for state. And then he took a year off as a junior. And I didn't think that we were going to get him back this year. Well, lo and behold, he kind of surprised us all and he came out again as a senior. And we are so glad that he did. I told the 6A rankings coordinator at the beginning of the year, like after watching it for a couple weeks, like they sent out, who do you think should be ranked out of your kids? And I emailed him back and I was like, you're not going to believe me because I've never said this before, but he's the only kid in the history of wrestling that took a year off, didn't do any wrestling at all, and somehow got way better. He's a stud, and it just doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, his run to state this year was cut short because of the league tournament. He suffered a concussion in his last match, which is too bad because he spent the majority of the year ranked in the top 6. And I know he probably would have made a run at that podium. This year, Isaiah was 6th at Shawnee Mission South. He was 4th at Bishop Carroll. He was 4th at the Centennial League, 3rd at Leavenworth. He was 2nd team All-City, and he was the champion of the Cougar Invitational. This is senior Isaiah Maxwell. Hey, next up, Jay Silva. Oh, you have to leave. Dang it. Okay, what about Cash? Cash is still here? All right, come on. I wanted to share with you a text that Cashin sent to me back on November 1st. He was out running, getting in shape for wrestling season. He wrote, I was running today the distance that I normally run, and it was more difficult than usual. When things get hard, I usually procrastinate and say that I can do them later. So I thought to myself multiple times when I was out running that I should probably give this up and do it later. I kept making the excuse that it's cold out. It was my asthma, because my elevation mask was set too hard. But none of that should matter. It doesn't matter what disadvantage I'm at. I should always strive for my goals, no matter what the circumstances. The stories I've heard through wrestling gave me the motivation to push through all of those excuses, and I found a way. I've learned a lot from wrestling, and I apply it to my life, and that's made me a stronger person. And that pretty much says it all right there. We are so proud of this kid for so many things, whether it's when I called him on Friday night before a league, and I said, it was about 8:30, and I was like, hey, any way you could lose 6 pounds and fill in for Gutter tomorrow? And he jumps in the car and goes to the gym, right? He had no idea he was going to wrestle until 8:30 that night, and he made weight the next morning. Or whether it's taking over the varsity 138 spot after Isaiah went down with a concussion. But we're most proud of him for the man that he's become. This year, Cashin was 3rd at Seaman. He was champion at Burlington. He was 4-1 at the varsity Olathe North duels. He was honorable mention All-City, and he was a key scoring ingredient to our varsity success at Beloit, League, and Regionals. This is Cashin Taggart. There's a screenshot from that run that he went on that he sent me. Okay, up next, we're going to talk about our state qualifiers. First of all, before I do that, is there anybody that didn't go to state as a wrestler that I haven't talked about? I've never forgotten anybody. I don't want this to be the first time. Okay, cool. All right, moving on. Gavin Collins, come on up. Gavin is another one of those, I forget he's just a sophomore. He's one that have you ever wrestled a JV match for us? I don't think so. Been varsity since the day he walked in here. And a big part of his improvement this year was his off-season commitment. He's another one of those elite J-Rob graduates. And like Drake, he got incrementally better throughout the entire season as the year went on. And without his improvement, and without those points at state, that trophy's not sitting on that table right now. This year, Gavin was 8th at Bishop Carroll. He was 5th at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was 4th at Leavenworth. He was 4th at Shawnee Mission South. He was 2nd at League. He was a 2018 state qualifier, placing 7th at regionals, and he was a unanimous selection by the Topeka area coaches as first team All-City. This is sophomore Gavin Collins. Mr. Gray, I don't know why halfway through the year they started calling him Grandpa, whatever. I'm not sure where this dude came from, because at the beginning of the year, Drake was struggling mightily. He'd be the first one to tell you that. I think he opened the season at 1-7, and we all knew that he had the tools, because we see it in practice every single day. He just needed to put it together, but for some reason when we got to Beloit, that's when things started clicking for him. He started wrestling loose and free, and again, just like Gavin, without his performance at state this year, we do not bring home a trophy. It helps that the dude looks like an action figure when he's out there in a singlet. I think that he seriously wins a lot of matches before the handshake happens because people get a look at him. And if he's able to stay at 182, go back and look at who finished in the top 6 this year. Look at who Drake beat on the way. He's going to open next year ranked number 3 at 182 if he stays in that weight class. But I think he's got a real shot at winning that whole banana next year as a senior. This year, Drake was 4th at Leavenworth. He was 3rd at Seaman. He was 5th at Beloit. He was 5-0 with 5 pins in the Lathrop North. He was 2nd team All-City, and he's a 2018 state qualifier, placing 4th at the regional tournament. This is Drake, my grandpa, Raby. Next up, Dalton Sparrow. I love this picture because even though it's just the feet, first of all, there's no question who it is, and second of all, it tells you a lot about what Dalton Sparrow is all about. Here's what the rest of them looks like. This year we took, and we've talked about it a lot, but we took a totally different approach than pretty much everybody else. Wrestling doesn't have to suck. Wrestling can be fun. We can have a good time while we do this thing. But to be able to do that, you have to have guys that buy in, and guys that are going to help other people have a good time. And that's Dalton. He is our czar of comedy. Even though he was only able to get in like half the season because he had a pretty bad MCL. It was MCL, right? Yeah, thanks for wrestling. Pretty bad MCL injury at the beginning of the year, but he still found a way to contribute by keeping everybody's spirits high when he couldn't wrestle. But then when we got him back on the squad, he scored us some key wins at league and at regionals, and we're looking forward to his swan song next year as a senior. This year, Dalton was 8th at Newton, he was a runner-up at Shawnee Mission South, and he is now a 2-time state qualifier, placing 5th at the regional tournament, and was selected honorable mention All-City by the Topeka area coaches. This is Dalton Sparrow. Hey, next up, we're going to talk about some state placers. Hey, Andrew Davis, come on, Andrew. I have a story that I have to share with you because I think Coach Z and I might have been the only people in the gym that saw it. He was wrestling against Blue Valley Southwest. Cordell Duhart, who just won his 2nd state title at Hartman Arena, just an absolute stud. And Andrew almost took him down in the first period. And towards the end of the first period, Duhart gets in on a shot, picks up a single leg, and can't take Andrew down. And time's running down, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And about 3, rather than like hitting the whizzer or trying to put the foot on the ground, Andrew just stares him dead in the eyes and goes, I've never in my life seen a wrestler do that. And so if you're wondering why Coach Z and I were laughing hysterically, that's what happened. But what makes Andrew unique is the fact that Andrew is unique. He reacts differently than most wrestlers do. Like I told his brother Aaron at state, I was like, you know, like when you're in the dorms and you grab your boy that had never wrestled before and you're wrestling around with him, but none of your stuff works because he doesn't react the way that most wrestlers react. That's what it's like wrestling Andrew. You see guys time and time again get in deep on shots and they just can't finish on it. You see him score from positions where most guys aren't able to score. And again, that's what it's like to wrestle with Andrew. He's so funky, people just don't know what to do with him. And that paid off because he had a ridiculously successful sophomore campaign. This year, Andrew was 8th at Newton, 5th at Beloit. And we told him back then, it's like, if you can place at Beloit, you can place at State. He was 4th at Shawnee Mission Northwest, 3rd at Shawnee Mission South, 2nd at Leavenworth, 4th at League, 2nd team All-City. He's a state qualifier, placing 3rd at the regional tournament. And he pulled a huge head-to-head upset over the Manhattan kid that had beaten him the week before. And that kept Manhattan in 3rd place. They win that match, we come home in 3rd. And he finished 5th at State as just a sophomore. This is Andrew Davis. Up next, we have Preston Williams. Come on, Preston. Lots of stuff here, sorry. Okay, I don't even know where to really start with Preston. I could talk about how I smashed a ton of rural wrestling all-time records. I could talk about the state medals with the dual pins, but I think I'm going to talk about him in his leadership role because Preston's one of those guys that knows what everybody else needs around him. A perfect example is watching him work with Cole Wells this year. Halfway through the year, we started moving Cole into his practice group so that Cole could grow a little bit more as a wrestler, and Preston bullied the dog out of him. Seriously, he bullied him. He slammed him harder than he needed to slam him. He hit him with cross faces that he didn't necessarily need to use. He hit him with cheap shots that would have gotten called for unnecessary roughness if it was a match. And it was exactly what Cole needed. And we made no effort to stop it. And I talked to Cole once. I was like, aren't you tired of him doing that to you? I was like, you should do something about it. Preston knew exactly what he needed. And that's what a leader does. He makes his teammates great. And then there's the flip side as well. When we needed to get our kids out of the stands, Preston was the first one to grab the people, dragging them out there to play spike ball. When we needed to laugh, he would grab Gavin, take him out to mid-mat, and start doing WWE moves. And then when my favorite part of state, not favorite, there's so many, but in his 3rd and 4th place match, I was like, Preston, we really need a pin here. And he's like, okay, coach, headlock, chin whip, headlock, and pin the kid like a minute and a half. It was fantastic. And he got us exactly what we needed. And next year, he finished 3rd at state again this year. Next year, we plan on talking about him as a 170-pound state champion. This year, he was, deep breath, 2nd at Leavenworth, champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, 2nd at Bishop Carroll, champion at Shawnee Mission South, 2nd at Beloit, 3rd at Newton, undefeated at Olathe North, runner-up at League, runner-up at Regionals, becoming a 3-time state qualifier. He won the City Junior Wrestler of the Year. He also won a pivotal match again against Manhattan to keep us in 2nd place, and he is now a 2-time state placer, finishing again 3rd at state, and now he is the all-time wins leader, all-time at Washburn Rural with 40 wins. He is 2nd place. He is 2nd place all-time at Washburn Rural with pins with 27, and this year he tied Gavin's school record for fastest fall at 7 seconds. This is Preston Williams. Austin Jenkins, come on, Austin. We're going to tell Austin's story for pretty much as long as I coach here. When he gets older, he can do it this summer. Austin could write a best-selling book about his trials and tribulations in his senior year. You heard him talk about it. Nobody likes cutting weight. That's the worst part of this sport. But Austin saw that we had a hole in the lineup at 26, and he knew if he could make it there, it would benefit our team greatly. So he did what a team captain does. He made the sacrifice. And when I saw him weighing in at Bishop Carroll, when he had to make scratch weight at 126, he put Michelangelo's David to shame. I'm talking abs with veins popping out. Something that you don't see from high school kids. And then later that same day, suffers a complete tear of his ACL. That's a career-ending injury for most wrestlers. But Austin's not most wrestlers. Not only did he finish wrestling that day, he did what a senior team captain does. He strapped on a brace, he hobbled through every practice to make weight, and he was determined to help us win a title, and he did his part. And as long as I live, I will never forget the roar of our crowd when he took down Cisco from Derby in the 3rd period to seal the win. Oh my God, I will never forget that. Like, that touched my soul. That was a life-defining moment. It was a true tale of triumph over adversity. And we can all learn a lot from the Austin Jenkins story. This year he was second at Leavenworth. He was third at Bishop Carroll. He was second at Shawnee Mission South. He was second at the Centennial League, second at Regionals, second team All-City. He led our team in the statistical category of 2-point near falls. He's got a 4.0 GPA, and he cemented his legacy among the all-time World Wrestling greats by putting his name on the wall with a third place finish at the state tournament. This is senior team captain, Austin Jenkins. Young wrestlers, take heed. If you are willing to play football, if you're willing to be a weight room warrior over the course of just 4 short years, you're going to go from this to this. And Jacob has so many great stories, but this one, oh man, this one's so fun. Jacob got upset in the state quarterfinals, which you heard him talk about it. That was one of his big goals for the year, was to win state. We knew if we could make it there, we were going to win. But he got caught, got put on his back. But he really showed his character by battling all the way back to wrestle for third. And in that third place match, he was wrestling Marcus Hicks, which if you don't know who Marcus Hicks is, he is currently the #1 football rated recruit in the state of Kansas. In fact, here's a photo of him FaceTiming with Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh. But Jacob absolutely laid the wood to Hicks in that match. And he had him on his back in a cradle in the third period. And Jacob finishes third at state. He comes over, he shakes the other coach's hands, he goes through, high fives everybody that's on the side, and he gives me a big hug, and in my ear he goes, "Send that film to Michigan." And as a big guy, I've got a soft spot for heavyweights. And it's been a lot of fun watching Jacob over the years. This year he was 4th at Bishop Carroll, he was 2nd at Beloit, 2nd at Newton, champion at Leavenworth, champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, champion at Shawnee Mission South, where he's the only heavyweight we have ever had that was named most outstanding wrestler in the tournament. He was the first heavyweight Centennial League state champion that Wash Monroe has ever had. He is the first regional champion heavyweight that Wash Monroe has ever had. He is our statistical category leader in escapes. He was unanimous pick for first team All-City. And by placing third at the state tournament, there is no argument. He is unquestionably the best heavyweight that has ever walked through the doors of Wash Monroe. Give it up for senior Jacob Lindell. This is a first for me. We've never had to have an entire category for state champs, but let's continue that next year. Make it a tradition. Now, if you had to pick a story of the tournament, there's no question it's Bishop Larry. Come on, Bishop. This is the dude that crashed the party in a big way. Based on the previous week's results, if there was somebody taking odds, it probably would have been 1,000 to 1, because he had to make it through 2 guys that had beaten him the previous week and the #1 ranked kid in the state. Those are not good odds. But he was also the only 6-seeded wrestler, all classes 1A through 6A, the only 6 seed to go on and win a state title. But that's because no one knows what we know about this kid. He walks through the hallways and weighs 105 pounds, and that is all heart. He finds a way to win when it matters. And based on this season's results, Bishop has the potential to be the most decorated wrestler in Wash Monroe history. And that's pretty elite company. I'm so grateful that we have him here for 3 more years, and I legitimately fear for the safety of the other kids at 106 next year. This year, because that's probably where he's going to end up. This year, Bishop was 4th at Newton. He was 2nd at Leavenworth. He was the champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest, second at Bishop Carroll, second at Shawnee Mission South, the champion of the Boyd Invitation. He was undefeated at Olathe North. He was a league runner-up when he was wrestling with 104-degree temperature. He was sixth at regionals. He earned from all of the Topeka area coaches Freshman of the Year honors for the city of Topeka. And he, like I said, was undeniably the story of the state tournament. And was the only wrestler in all weights, all classes, who came in as a 6th seed and won the whole thing. Please give a round of applause to 6A state champion. Love that picture. Gavin Carter, come on up. I don't have long enough to stand up here and say all the good things I've got to say about Gavin, so I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. We've had kids in the past that are great technicians. We have those guys every year. But I've never had one like Gavin. With pretty much everything we show, he's got a little tweak that makes it better. He's the first kid that I've ever coached where I would be completely comfortable walking in on November 18th, handing him the whistle, leaving the room and saying, "See you in March," right? He could run the show. And not just because he knows moves, but because he knows how to connect with people. He knows how to be a leader. He is a true technician and student of the game, and this kid has walked to the earth to learn the sport. Not many kids are willing to travel to Leavenworth twice a week in the off season just so they can get with one kid who's a stud. Okay? And that's what Gavin's doing this spring. And what's more, he's just about the highest character kid you could ask for. He is the only kid. I've never had another one do this. Every practice he's been to at Washburn Road, we get done, he comes up, offers a handshake, and says thank you. Only one I've ever had that does that. It's rare that we get to say this, but Gavin Carter truly is the total package. This year he was 6th at Newton. He was 3rd at Bishop Carroll. He was champion at Leavenworth, champion at Shawnee Mission Northwest. He was champion at Shawnee Mission South. He was a Centennial League champion. He was a regional champion. He set the school record, all-time school record for most takedowns in a season with 124. And he set the all-time school record for highest first takedown percentage. He was a unanimous first-team All-City. He also earned the Sophomore of the Year award in Topeka, and he was unquestionably, this cannot be argued, he was the most dominant wrestler in 6A over the last 2 months of the season. He did not give up a single point outside of escapes to any opponent for the last 2 months. That just doesn't happen, folks. He had the fastest pin in the finals out of any wrestler, any weight class, all classes. He is a stud. We get him for 2 more years. This is sophomore, 195-pound state champion, Gavin Carter. There's one left. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Gunnar Murray. This one where I don't really need any notes. It would be very easy to stand up here and tell you about all of his state medals. I could tell you about the tournament championships, the statistical records, but I'm not going to do that. Because I got something else to share with you. And this is something unique. This is something I've been waiting a long time to share. Specifically since January 9th of the 2014-2015 season. That's when I wrote a letter to Gunnar Murray. I gave him a copy. I kept the copy for myself. And I've been waiting for 4 years for this moment when I can share it with you. On this it says, "Do not open until year-end Banquet 2018. Keep in mind, everything that you hear in this letter is going to sound dated because it's from 4 years ago. But this letter sums up everything that you need to know about not just Gunnar Murray, but about the Washburn Road Wrestling Program. Again, January 9th, 2015. Gunnar, last night I went to Manhattan to watch Manhattan versus Clay Center for a cancer benefit duel. And I had a lengthy conversation with someone who had some very high praise for you. They were using this duel as a cancer benefit for one of my former high school teammates. And while I was there, I ran into Lee Woodford, who was my old high school wrestling coach. Coach Woodford's one of the most decorated and respected coaches in Kansas wrestling history. And while his state titles and coaching awards are impressive, they pale in comparison to his attitude towards the sport and his relationships that he's cultivated with all of his former students and athletes. And someday, hopefully many, many years from now, his funeral will be standing room only. Now, if you can't tell, I have the utmost respect for Coach Woodford, and I take his sage advice as gospel. I asked him for advice when I was struggling in college. I asked him for advice before I got married. He counseled me on whether or not to take the coaching position here at Washburn Road. And he gave me advice on how to get our program turned in the right direction. At any point in my tenure at Rowan, I've had a problem or a question, he's been the person that I've leaned on. So you can imagine my excitement when I ran into him at the Manhattan Clay Center meet, not only because did I get to spend some of the evening with my greatest mentor, but because I could ask for direction in one area where we have been greatly struggling. While I've been immensely pleased with the progress we made over my first 3 years here at Rowan, I've been frustrated with the fact that we're bringing home a lot of second and third place medals. I want brackets. I want state champions. I want league championships. I want regional titles. I want state titles. And I've been frustrated that we haven't been able to break through and achieve these things yet. So I asked him, I said, Coach, and yeah, I still call him Coach, even though he hasn't coached me in a match for 17 years. I said, what can we do to get over the hump? It seems like we're right there, and we just can't break through. He started to talk and give me what I thought was going to be his magic formula for success. But then another adoring Woodford fan came up and interrupted us. And I figured I wasn't going to get the answer that I wanted, at least not on that night. But lo and behold, the duel comes to an end, and as the evening was coming to a close, I went to say goodbye to him, and it stuck out my hand. And he took it, and he pulled me in close, and he got right into my ear, just like he did before all of my matches back in 1998. And there we stood in the middle of a crowded gym floor, in a half handshake, half hug, for what must have been at least 2 to 3 minutes. He wasn't going to let anybody disturb what he had to say. He repeated my question. How do you get over the hump? How do you go from qualifiers to champions? Here's step 1. Stop being so damn selfish. I know you want it all. I know you want it now, but you have to respect the process. This is going to take time. And then he went on. He said, if you want your kids to believe it, then you need to believe what you put on the back of those t-shirts. Rome was not built in a day. And if you want to do this thing, it has to be done. And he trailed off. Just like he did many years ago when I was under his tutelage. He made me finish the sentence. It has to be done, he repeated, and I said, brick by brick. He said, you've done what you needed to do at this point, but now you have to find the one. You have to find that one kid. You've got a good team. But when you find the one, the rest will take care of itself. The one is that one kid that wins a bracket week in and week out through the entire season. And once your team sees this, they will follow suit and everything else will fall into place. Keep building. Keep working fundamentals. Find the one. Keep in mind, this entire conversation is taking place mouth to ear in the middle of a crowded gym floor. And he continued, he said, you don't have to look far. You've already got him, and you probably don't even know it yet. Keep him on the right path. Keep him working. Keep him committed. Keep him out of trouble. And that little 6-pounder you got, he's the one. Murray is going to be your first state champion. Heck, he's got the potential to be your first and maybe your only national champion. But more than that, he is your catalyst. He's going to take your good team and he's going to turn it into a great program. He's going to hold his teammates accountable and he is going to make everyone else in the room great. And it might not happen this year. Heck, it might not even happen next year. You won 2 state titles and 50 matches in a row and you didn't wrestle varsity until you were a junior. Just think how much you stunk as a freshman. Now think how far this kid is ahead of where you were at that point. The important thing for you to remember is that it might not happen today, but it will happen. And when all is said and done, you can look back on your career as a coach, and you're going to point to him as the one that changed the entire fate of the Washburn Road Wrestling program. Repeat after me. Keep laying bricks. Keep teaching good fundamentals. Find the one. And this was the end of our conversation. I went straight out to my car. And I typed it out exactly as I remembered it so I wouldn't forget a word. And my hope, Gunner, is that you print this off, put it in an envelope, and put it in your sock drawer. Revisit it on occasion. Recognize the fact that a man who you will probably never meet and who knows more about wrestling in Kansas than anyone else on the planet sees something in you that you may not even see in yourself. You are the one. High praise indeed. In relentless pursuit, Coach Parker. Please join me in a round of applause to the one, the only, state champion, Gunner Murray. Move on. We got some team captains to elect here. And the last part of this, I promise you will be out the door. It's almost 8 o'clock, right? Oh, it's almost 8. We'll pretend it's almost 8. Okay, I'll get you out of here soon. Okay, let's see. Moving on to team captains. Start again. There it is. All right. As voted on by our wrestlers and coaching staff, the kids vote. I tell them on this thing, this has a whole lot to do with my selection. This is one of the few where we don't just count votes because sometimes it turns into a popularity contest. If I don't think a kid's a leader, he's not going to be a captain for us. We might have 6, we might have 1. It just kind of depends on how many leaders we got. And this year will be the same as last year. This year we have 4 team captains. So when I call your name, fellas, come on up, pick up your certificate. Your captain pin for your letter jacket. I have 4 to give out. Number 1 for Gavin Carter. Number 2 for Drake Graybeal. Number 3 for Bill Snatterly. And number 4 for Preston Williams. Congrats. There he is. Congrats, guys. Here, I'll let you guys pass these out. Well done, fellas. It's in the battle. Okay. All right, next up, we're going into our individual awards. Okay, individual awards, again, we have everybody vote for our individual awards, and we have something called the Iron Man. The Iron Man is a pretty prestigious group. That is a group of people that everyone is eligible for. This takes no talent whatsoever, but it takes a ridiculous amount of commitment and a lot of good luck. You can't miss a practice all year, basically. The only exception to that would be if it is a practice where I told you to lead. For example, John Vincent. Prior to last year, I've only had 1. Nathan Isles was the only one I ever had. Last year we had 2 more. We had John Vincent last year, and we had Sean Marcus. This year, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 wrestlers that didn't miss a single practice all year. And if you watch how our program is on an upward trajectory, this has a lot to do with it. Give a round of applause to Preston Williams, Cole Wells, John Vincent, Dominic Holthouse, and Jason Galloway. That does not come with a plaque, but it comes with a name on the wall that will be there forever, and that's pretty cool. There you go, fellas. Okay.
I'm gonna have to revamp that.
All right, the next award that we're going to give out. A couple of these tonight are kind of no-brainers. This would be one of them. We give out a Newcomer of the Year award. This is a wrestler that was not part of our program last year. So if a senior came out for his first year of wrestling, he would be eligible. But usually it ends up going to a freshman that sees some varsity time. I can think of one that saw quite a bit of varsity time. He did pretty well. Give a round of applause to Newcomer of the Year, Bishop Murray. Come on, Bishop. Give that to him when he gets back. Hey. Does he? Well, he knew that was coming, I'm sure. Okay, our next award is our Workhorse Award. And this is the person that just grinds himself to the bone in the mat room. This is the hardest working kid that garners respect from everybody else that says, man, I wish I would work as hard as that guy. And again, I think that this one is a no-brainer if you watch them all year. Give a round of applause to our Workhorse of the Year, Mr. Austin Jenkins. All right, our next award, this one, very well deserved, and this is one where we had it split between like 3 or 4 different people that were pretty close. There was one that had the lion's share, had quite a bit more than the other 3 in the pack. Our next award is our most improved wrestler, and everybody is eligible for this. JV wrestlers are eligible, varsity wrestlers are eligible. It doesn't matter what your record is, it's how much did you improve over the course of a year. And this year, our most improved wrestler, wrestling varsity, at 160 pounds, Mr. Cole Wells. Hey, everybody give it up for Bishop Murray. You were newcomer of the year. Okay, all right, our most inspirational wrestler. This is the person that inspires our wrestlers to not just be better athletes, not just be better wrestlers, but to be better people as well. And this one, I think it was 95% of the vote. No question on this one. Give it up for the one, Gunnar Murray. Come on, baby. Hey, and our last one is our most outstanding wrestler. This one comes with not just a little plaque for them to take home, but also has the name on the perpetual plaque that we have in the trophy case. I've told our guys since I got hired here, I will never, ever make cuts. I won't ever cut somebody from the team. And I hardly ever say never, but that's one thing, I'll never cut anybody. If we got to split practice, we'll split practice. I will also tell you this, here's a second never for you. I will never have a state champion that does not get his name on the plaque for most outstanding wrestler. So give a big round of applause to Gavin Carter, Bishop Murray, and Gunnar Murray. Come on. Good job, fellas. Well done. Well done. Academic awards. I don't have them. They haven't come out yet. Our banquet is earlier this year than it usually is, and that's my favorite thing to give out, and we don't have them. So I promise you I will get you that information as soon as possible. Okay? Now we have... as we come to the end of the night, I'd like to talk about some interesting statistics that Dr. Parker sent me towards the end of the school year. The first year we were here was 2012. I'm sorry, yeah, back to our academic stuff. Again, this is our cumulative GPA for our full team, and like I said, our state place is unknown at this time. Okay, we're going to talk about opportunities to improve yourself in the program, but first we're going to talk about this data. We came to Washburn Rural in 2012. That first year, we scored 17 points at state. We tied for 28th place, and the teams that we beat were Wyandotte, Schlegel, and J.C. Harmon. That's it. Every year since then has been steady growth. And the way I look at this chart, there's really only one more place to go. So how do we make that jump? Okay? It's not going to happen on its own, guys. The second you start to get complacent, the second you start to think, well, we got second last year, we're going to get first next year, that's when the whole thing falls apart. Okay? We have to take the jump. We have to do the off-season stuff, and you need to do it harder now than you ever have before. So, this weekend, you can wrestle at the district tournament. I strongly, strongly suggest, if you are in town, you don't have an excuse. Wrestle at the district tournament. And here's all you need to do. Okay? At the end of the night, I'm gonna have Lindsay put a piece of paper on that music stand right by the door, so you have to look at it when you leave. Okay, at the end of the night, all you need to do, name, age, record, JV or varsity, doesn't matter. Those 3 things, and I'll do all the other work for you. I'll get you signed up, okay? But we need to get those 30 off-season matches if we want to take that jump from where we are now and have a really fun graph next year at the banquet. So make sure that you get that signed up, or get yourself signed up. Also, parents, if your kid leaves tonight, and if you're on the way out the door and you say, "Are you signing up?" and they say no, ask them why. Ask them why. Seriously, if you're on vacation, cool, I get it. I'm going to be on vacation as well, but I'm out of eligibility, right? I would be signing up if I could. So ask your kids tonight, if they don't sign up, why they're not going to. After school strength and conditioning. We're going to do that in the weight room Monday through Thursday. That will start the week after spring break. And that will go from 3 to 4 p.m. Everybody's encouraged to do that. And in fact, if you're not working a job, I shouldn't even say that. If you're working a job, ask them to start you at 5 or 4:30 so you can come in and lift. All wrestlers 9th through 11th grade are expected to attend unless they're competing in fall sport. And if you're playing baseball or doing track, it's going to be tough to do that. Okay? Rocky Mountain Wrestling Camp, June 18th through 21st. I'm going to send out information on all this camp stuff, guys, so you'll get the flyer and all that. But the vast majority of our varsity wrestlers have attended this camp, and if you have varsity aspirations, young guys, find a way to get yourself to Colorado. J-Rob, this is intense. Okay? This is not for someone who is weak-minded. You don't have to be an elite level state champion wrestler to do it. We've had JV guys go there and graduate from camp, but you gotta be tough up here. And if you're almost tough up here, this is a good way to get there. If you're not very tough up here, maybe not, but play basketball. Okay, freestyle and Greco. Freestyle and Greco will begin the week after spring break. Details again will come to you soon. And the final thing that I have for you tonight, I've gone over. I had a goal of closing down right at 9 o'clock, but we have a state video that is about 8 minutes long. So I will send that out to you because I don't want to keep anybody any longer than we have to. But it is very cool, and I encourage all of you to take a look at it. It hasn't been posted up for anybody yet. But what's up? Okay, we'll do it. What's up?
Okay, so we're gonna give out the gifts. Okay, so we're gonna give out the gifts that the team and parents all help pitch in for, and this is something we do every year for the coaches because we respect everything that they've done for us, and just to give our thanks and gratitude towards.
All right, let's see what we got. Open up. Happy birthday, guys. What's it say? Hold on.
Find a way. I got my own pillow. The universe is married to wrestling season.
That's pretty accurate. Awesome for the managers too. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about this. Doug Walker, the guy that takes a bunch of photos for us also, he told me I have to open a card and open this in front of everybody, so I am definitely afraid of what's inside of here, but we're gonna find out. Oh, this one's, oh, that's yours. My bad. I bet yours is.
Hey, Kevin, you gotta.
All right, sorry. Yeah, he said, Coach, I would write something really nice about you in this note, but who are we kidding? That would just not be me. As parents, teachers, and coaches, we have likely told the kids somebody is always watching. I love to admit I watch you. It's always been, it has always impressed me how you're a teaching coach. You take the time to instruct the kids. Any coach can run the X's and O's. You take the time to explain to the kids how the X's and O's work. Here's what you need to improve. Anyone can coach and yell. You teach and coach. I wish more coaches were like you. This picture is one that's stuck in my mind because The wrestler you're getting ready to shake hands with actually just lost. Keep up the good work, Doug Walker. I'm looking forward to seeing this. That was great. That's really cool. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Okay. Get gooey. Wow. You scuba. Oh man, I know that. Sorry, it took me a second to put it together. That is really, really cool, guys. We're going on vacation to Key West. We always try to get away somewhere after season's over and kind of get away from the sport. This is going to help us be able to do some really fun things with it. So thank you for that. You guys are awesome, and that's too much. Oh, jeez. Holy crap.
Wait, Coach, you can make better read these out too.
Come on, big old Jimmy.
Speedos.
Sorry, guys. Oh, sweet. That is awesome. Coach Barker, State, Washburn. Thank you all very much. Okay, now, final thing tonight, we're going to play this video, then we're going to be done. Don't forget, sign up for Speakable Thunder before you leave. Take these pictures with you. I don't want to have to collect like 300 of them off the wall. Make sure you take them all. There's even some on that little post way in the back. Also make sure that you take any food and all that kind of business. And enjoy. This one's a fun one to watch. Even if you weren't wrestling at State, a lot of you are still in here.